Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you are new, welcome to my channel. My name is Kelly and today I am going to be talking to you guys about my birth story. Obviously, as you can see by the title, it is my birth story for my second child, and I'm not really sure if I mentioned it in my previous videos, but I had a baby girl, a second baby girl. I do have an older child as well. I have a toddler. She is 2.5 years old now, and if you actually want to see her birth story, I do talk about her birth story. The link is down below in the description if you want to watch it, and if you want to watch both of their videos, I will link Madelyn's playlist, and I'll also link the new baby's playlist down below as well. And since she is born, I can tell you guys what her name is. Her name is Leia, like Star Wars Princess Leia. We actually named her after the Star Wars character. She is currently a week old, and both of my kids are sleeping right now, so that's why it's very quiet and I am at peace and I can actually film my video while they're both sleeping. And honestly, I was contemplating whether I should take a nap as well while they're both sleeping, but I decided to film my video instead because I've been wanting to do this, and I was actually thinking about doing it while Madelyn goes to daycare and then I only have Leia at home. But I decided I can film these videos today or when I have time and they're both kind of sleeping, and then I will edit it when one of them is gone off to daycare. I can try to probably edit as much as I can today. Anyways, that's not about this video. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about my birth story, and I wanted to talk to you guys all about Leia, my newborn baby who is a week old. She's a week and like 3 days now. I'm also going to be filming a 1-week postpartum video, so stay tuned for that. But Leia, she was due December 17th 2020, which is next month, and that was her estimated due date. And obviously everybody knows that due dates are not always accurate, but there are a lot of times where babies are born on their due date or even near around their due date. In terms of Leia, she was born 5 weeks early, so she is a premature baby. She was born at 35 weeks exactly, actually. And it's so funny because Madelyn was born 2 weeks early and she was born exactly at 38 weeks. So it's funny because people always tell stories about how like your first child would be early and then your second child would be on time, like on the estimated due date or like a little bit later. Obviously that isn't like exact and it's not facts because you never really know when a baby's gonna come, but honestly I didn't expect Leia to come this early. I was hoping that she would come before her due date. I wanted her to come a little bit early. Obviously I didn't care if she was born on her due date or not. I just wanted her to come healthy, obviously, into this world. But she came 5 weeks early, which is pretty crazy, and I was just hoping that everything would be okay because you never know with premature babies. But she was early and the doctors and nurses said that she was very healthy for a premature baby. She was very strong for a premature baby, and honestly I am surprised because she actually didn't spend any time in the NICU, which is the nursery, the newborn intensive care unit, the NICU. And normally preemies spend some time in there, even if it's just a few days or if it's like, obviously depending on how early they come and how well they're performing. She never spent any time in there. But anyways, let me start with the beginning. So it was November 11th, which is Remembrance Day. I was hanging out with Tyrone actually. We were at home. He came home from work because he had like a 3-hour break in between his next like shift, and Madelyn was at daycare, so it was just me and him. You know, we were just chilling, and then we were watching our show on Netflix, which is The Queen's Gambit. We were watching, and if you haven't watched that, you should because it's a really good show. So we were watching The Queen's Gambit, and one of those episodes are like an hour long. And starting the episode, and we were just sitting on the couch, we were just chilling, and I was having cramps. And honestly, I never really thought any of it, just because I've had cramps before and it would go away. And honestly, I never experienced that with Madeline, so it was like kind of new to me. When I had Madeline, my water broke right away, and I didn't have any contractions until like later on. But I was already like in labor and in the hospital by that point. But for Leia, I was at home and my stomach was hurting, and the whole entire time, like, we watched one episode of the Queen's Gambit, and then it was time for Tyrone to go, and he was getting ready to go back to work, and I was telling him like the whole entire time we were watching the episode, my stomach was hurting, but it was like on and off. So then at that point he had to get ready to go to work, so he left, and then I timed my contractions, and I was like, okay, let me time it, let me see how it goes. And in the beginning, on average, it was a little over 5 minutes. It was like 5 minutes to 10 minutes, so between those times. And I was like, okay, if some of my contractions are about 10 minutes apart, then maybe I'm not in labor. But then it was like, I would say maybe between 1 to like 3 or 4 o'clock, let's say 1 to 4 o'clock p.m. I got contractions that were closer in time, and then soon the average time would be like 3 minutes. So it would be like 3.5 minutes in between each contraction, and each contraction lasted less than a minute. So like average would be 20 to maybe like 30 or 40 seconds, and then, you know, would stop and then would go again. And then that was like 3.5 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes. Usually it was under 5 minutes. After about 3 o'clock, it became very consistent, and it was about 3.5 minutes apart. And then I was like, okay, maybe I am in labor. But then I didn't know for sure because my water didn't break, and I did go to the bathroom. I had diarrhea twice, and I was like, okay, this is kind of similar to what I had with Madeline, because before my water broke, I actually was using the bathroom quite a lot. And then when I thought I was finished using the bathroom and I was able to like rest, my water broke. So obviously that was a cue for me to go to the hospital. But then with Leia, I didn't have any cues. Obviously my contractions, yeah, but it was different for me because I never had contractions like that with Madeline. So obviously I timed it for like 4 hours, and then finally around like 5, I called the labor and delivery room or the labor and delivery floor at the hospital that I was giving birth at, and they said, yes, you should come in, you should get it checked, and if, you know, you're not fully dilated, or if you're not dilated far enough, then obviously you can go home, but just to make sure, you should check it. So I told them that I had to pick up my daughter at daycare, so I couldn't come right away. And they said that if you can handle it, and if you think you are okay to do that, then you gotta do what you gotta do, especially if you don't have anybody else to like pick her up. So I left to pick her up, and then, sorry, it wasn't 5:30, it was like 4:30 when I called, and I told her that I had to pick her up for 5, and it was just really close in time, so I couldn't go. And I told them that after I pick her up, then I will come. And then the nurse on the phone was like, okay, you know, you should do what you gotta do and then come when you can come. So by the time I got to the hospital, it was like 6:30, and then I got checked in. My OB actually didn't even send any of my information over to the hospital yet, because she did not expect me to give birth this early. And it's just funny because November 11th was a Wednesday. The week before, I actually went to see my OB. I had an appointment, so I had my appointment. Then a week later, I started, you know, having contractions, and then the week after, I was supposed to go see my OB again, because it was my 2-week mark to go check the baby again, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be fine, you know, we're gonna go to the OB, she's gonna check to make sure like Leia's okay, because when I went to speak with the OB the week before that, she said that the baby was measuring very small, and she's probably gonna be around the same size and the same weight as Madeline. So I was like, okay, you know, like that's not too bad, because Madeline was only 6 pounds, like 9 ounces. Tyrone always fights me about that. He says, oh, she's 6 pounds 8 ounces, and I'm like, no, she's 6 pounds 9 ounces. But anyways, so I was looking forward to that appointment just to see if everything was okay. And the next thing you know, a week before my OB appointment, I go into labor. So I get checked in, and she didn't have any of my information sent over, so they had to ask me all this information, and then they checked me into triage. And then the OB came, that was working at the hospital at the time, not my OB. They checked my cervix, and I was 4 centimeters dilated. So the OB and the nurse was like, okay, well, you're not going home, you're gonna be staying here. So I stayed at the hospital. And the funny thing is, I didn't even mention, when I started getting contractions, at that time I didn't even have my hospital bag packed. So after Tyrone left, I told him that I'm gonna pack my hospital bag, and if I need it, then I have it, but if I don't need it, then at least it's packed. So I packed it while I was having contractions and timing everything. And then next thing you know, I go to the hospital and I have to stay. Sorry, I am gonna eat my ice cream. I'm eating shortbread ice cream. It's a holiday ice cream, and it's so freaking good. But yeah, so the OB and the nurse said I have to stay. And then they just said that, you know, they're gonna check me again in about 2 hours. So I was in the triage room for about 2 hours after I got there. And when they came back, well, before they checked me again, you know, my blood, they gave me the COVID test, and they did all the sorts of things, and, you know, connected me to wires and yada yada yada, and told me to time, not to time, but to keep track of the baby's movements. So I did that, and then 2 hours later they checked me, and I was 5 centimeters dilated. So the OB said that I was ready to go to the labor room, so they prepared the labor room for me, and then they brought me over there, put me in a gown, prepared my stuff, and I waited there for a few more hours. They had to speed up my labor just because I was already so far along. They gave me oxytocin, which is some medication that helps speed up like the contractions to labor faster, and the OB had to break my water. It didn't break by itself, so the OB broke my water. And then the nurse was keeping an eye on me. She was going back and forth from me to the computer, to me to the computer, and at one point there was a little bit of a scare. She was saying that she was giving me so much oxytocin, well, not so much, but she was giving me a lot of oxytocin, but it's making the baby's heart rate go lower. And obviously if I didn't have like my labor sped up, then it would take me a really long time to get to the point where it's time for me to push the baby out. And I was actually about 6 to 7 centimeters for about 3 hours, and it was taking a lot of time. But she also didn't want to speed it up too much because Leia's heart rate was going down, and honestly at that point I was just so scared. I did not want to have a C-section. Like, that was not part of the plan. But anyways, she dealt with it and everything was good. And then finally, I think I was like, honestly she didn't even tell me how much centimeters I was, but I'm pretty sure it was time for me to push. At that point I was probably 9 centimeters already, because the nurse was like, okay, it's time for you to have this baby. So then she called the OB, and the OB came. And then actually it was about 12:30 a.m. on November 12th, and she was like, okay, everything's good now, and you know, you're dilated enough to the point where it's time for you to push. So she called the OB, he came in, and then 10 minutes later Leia came out. I had her around like it was exactly 12:50 a.m. I had her, and she was 5 pounds and 2.5 ounces. So yeah, honestly it was a very quick delivery. My birth with Leia was like a snap of a finger. I swear to you, I pushed once, and then the OB told me to cough, and then Leia came out. Definitely faster, definitely easier, and also I did not have any tears, so my recovery was a lot better. So needless to say, this birth was a lot easier in terms of labor and giving birth, but in terms of being pregnant was worse than Madeline. So I guess it's kind of like the opposite, because when I had Madeline, only in the beginning was when it was the worst, because I had morning sickness, which I hated. But after morning sickness went away, the pregnancy was a breeze, and then the birth was kind of difficult because I did tear, and then my recovery was kind of hard because it hurt a lot. But then with Leia, the whole pregnancy was just very hard on my body, and then when it came to the birth, it was quick and easy, and recovery was just perfectly fine. Like, I am 1 week postpartum, 1 week and a few days postpartum, and I feel great. So obviously there are like a little bit of aches and pains here and there, like in my thigh and in my hips and in my back, but other than that, everything is good. And that is basically my birth story. I wish I could show you her right now, but she's sleeping, so I do not want to disturb her. But in future videos you will see her. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos of me, my life, and my kids. And don't forget to click that subscribe button if you like my videos. Thank you for watching.